If you are recently divorced, separated, never married, or find yourself suddenly single in the city due to a relationship meltdown, Lisa Delusignan and Laura Bradley are here to help you navigate the dating maze. They are both registered professional counselors and life coaches. It is my pleasure to welcome Lisa and Laura to Studio 4 to tell us more.
Hi, Fanny.
Hi, Fanny.
I assume if you're both experts and coaches and counselors, you both have men in your lives.
We do.
True. Yep. I've been married for 8 years.
And I've been in a relationship for 6.5. Yeah.
Were you ever desperate and dateless? And that's probably a terrible thing to ask.
I think
but,
so.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? Single and saying what single women do. There just are no men in this city. I'd rather be alone with some dull pants.
Absolutely. Or, you know, for me, I certainly have been out in the dating field and kept dating the same kind of guy. Took me a long time to learn how to find somebody different. I had to realize that, well, the common denominator was me, right?
You blamed yourself,
well,
in a sense.
Ultimately, that was the only way I could change it.
Do you think you were ready for a relationship? I know in your seminars, when you do seminars, one of the questions is how to know if you're ready for a relationship. Yeah. How do you know? When are you in your own way, in a sense, not open to one?
Well, I think that we think that we're ready sometimes before we are. And that's when you get into the wrong guy over and over and over again. So if that's what's happening, if you keep attracting the wrong one, then you're not ready. Or he's not committed. Actually, you're not committed. So whatever you're attracting is actually something you need to look at for yourself.
Well, the Deepak Chopras of the world would tell you every relationship is a gift.
Yes.
Even if it's a bad one.
It is.
But you must learn from the relationship.
Right. Yeah. And I think that that's a trick to start to look at your belief systems and how come you keep getting into those same relationships over and over again. And to start making the changes from inside so you can actually do something different outside.
So where do you start making a change inside? How, if you're home on a Saturday night, home on a Friday night, haven't had a date in 2 years, haven't met, not only not had a date, haven't met any person of the opposite sex or the same sex, depending on your proclivity, who you want to be with.
Right.
Well, I think the first thing is it's the same system you would use if you needed to change your finances. So you would take an inventory of what's going on. So what has been going on in the past and what can you change today? So you might look at, let's see, I've attracted these kind of men, or I'm not going out at all. So maybe one of the things you should do is go out, connect with some girlfriends, start connecting and getting some feedback on what we could do differently. What are we all doing that we can start changing? And it's the same as any changes in your life, it's the same. You get an inventory of what you've been up to and then start changing from the inside out.
And it's like that old saying, you know, if you're doing the same thing and expecting to get different results, that's the definition of insanity, right? So you actually are going to have to take some risks and do something differently. And we find often we ask women that are doing that, you know, well, when's the last time, you know, you noticed a cute guy? Did you say hi to him? Did you smile at him? And often they're like, oh, no, that's like the last person I talked to. So usually it's, you know, there's some concrete steps after you take that inventory that you need to take, and it feels scary.
So what do? You're out with 4 girls in a nice restaurant. There's 4 men at a table across the way. All seem interesting, great looking. How do you get them to notice you?
Well, I would say smiling
Short of
works.
taking your clothes off, you know what I mean.
But smiling works. I think that if you can position yourself so you're sort of looking in a sort of direction, not direct on, and sort of give a glance, give a smile, like it's like an invitation, like I'm open for one of you to come over and talk to me. And make it so that the circle, if there's 4, is open and not closed. So if all your backs are to them, they're not going to enter. So almost like energetically you're saying, I'm open to someone coming over and talking to me.
Sure. You know, sometimes when you're having a lot of fun with girls in a restaurant and giggling and laughing and being ridiculous, actually men feel safer to come over because they want to be part of the fun.
Yeah. It's often easier with a group than it is with just one person. There's less risk.
So now, Laura, you're in the coffee shop.
This is fun. It's like I'm dating all over
I
again.
know. Across the crowded coffee shop, there's someone who looks intriguing to you, and perhaps it's just physical at that time, or maybe you've seen him in there every morning for a month.
Right.
How do you make an entree? What are some ways without faking it? You know what I mean? Oh, sorry, dropped my car keys, or are you George when you know they're not?
Right.
The old tricks.
Yeah. I mean, I think that I would start by smiling and then see if you get feedback back. And then if you do, then I would find a reason to go over there that maybe isn't a real reason, right? But then you could start any kind of conversation like, oh, I've seen you here a few times, or you could say anything. It would depend what you're interested in, or you've probably noticed him doing specific things. Like I might pick up on something that you've noticed him doing when he's in there. Like if he's on his laptop all the time, would you come here to work? Or just any kind of opening to a conversation.
Because it's a human connection, really, isn't it?
Absolutely.
But for some reason, when it's someone we're interested in, even when we were in grade 1, we act silly.
Yeah.
Yes.
And even when you're 40 or 50 or 60, you act a bit silly. If you don't like someone, or if you're not like, that's the wrong word. If you're attracted to someone,
Then you start acting silly.
I know,
Yeah,
or
it's
something
immediate.
comes out of your mouth. I think, no, I can't believe I said that.
It's like you're suddenly 14 again.
Suddenly.
Yeah.
Yes.
And sometimes it's good to say that out loud. That, I don't know why I just said that. I just said something completely silly. Because the other person understands that, and that's connection, right?
Right.
Then oh yeah, I do that too. Yeah, okay, now we're having something to talk about.
So
Something silly.
you will be conducting one of your workshops, the famous Fab Love. It's called Fab Love Workshop?
Fab Love Life.
Fab Love Life
Yes.
workshops.
Yes.
What goes on in a Fab Love Life workshop?
So we have different ones. So the one that's coming up is for anyone that's single, and we're starting to look at those patterns, the patterns that I was talking about, as in what are you up to? What do you think the problem is, if there's a problem? If you want to enter a relationship, it's not happening for you, then what is going on? What are the patterns? And then we start looking at things that they can actually do differently. And because everyone is single, everyone has lots of ideas. So lots of discussion, lots of what's working for me, what worked in the past, why isn't it working now? And also even wardrobe and how you present yourself, because how you present yourself is important.
Okay, what's sexy?
Well, I mean, there's a fine edge between too much and not enough, right? But that when you think about when you first meet somebody, it's like you're presenting your resume. It's the best possible you can possibly present. And often we forget that, right? But that kind of first moment of meeting is you have that kind of fantasy period where it's like the potential of what it could be like in a perfect world, your relationship.
Yes.
And that's important, that you're bringing your best self forward.
I was reading John Gray's book, knowing you were coming, and my daughter got it for her birthday, Mars and Venus on a Date, a guide for navigating the 5 stages of dating. They say that first stage is attraction, of course.
Right.
That makes sense. And then the second stage was uncertainty.
Right.
What to do. Third was exclusivity. When do you decide that this is the right one, and instead of the bad guy? Do you know what I mean? I heard earlier when you said you keep attracting the same person, and then it all blows apart, and you say, never again. I am not doing that again. And guess what?
You do it again.
You do it again.
Yeah.
And that's a piece where Lisa was talking about. You have to start to take an inventory and look, okay, do I have a pattern? Do I keep dating the same guy with a different suit, right? Is that what I keep doing, and then keep thinking that the guy's a problem, when actually there must be something operating within you, some sort of belief system going on where there's a reason you're doing that. You're dating, you're choosing that guy. So there's lots of things you can do around that, you know.
Okay.
Maybe it's for you. You don't take a lot of risks in your life, so you're attracted to somebody that does. So maybe you need to start taking some risks in your life in order to not need that from a partner.
Why am I attracted to Richard Branson? He has a wife. He owns Virgin Air. He's a Renaissance guy. And every time I see him pop up on the television, I think, you're my guy.
Well, he's very exciting.
And he's
it's
safe.
exciting, and he's safe because
He's in a relationship.
already in a relationship.
Oh, I didn't think
There's
about
no
that.
risk, and he's on TV. He's actually by a glass. You can't touch him because he's on TV.
He's on TV, that's true. I don't have to touch him. I don't have to meet him. But if he wanted to come to Studio 4 and sit right there,
You would interview him, for sure.
I would interview him for sure. And I think my little heart would race just a bit.
Probably.
Because
Yeah.
there's something, I don't know him.
Yeah.
But I think how he operates in the world, and he's now got this new Elders project where he's putting great minds together to save the world, and he's obviously smart, and he's a bit of a wild guy, and I think, my guy.
Right.
You know, all the way to the bank. I have no idea what he's like in a relationship. None.
Yeah. I mean, you bring up a really important point, because I think we often do that as women, especially as we pick somebody that's unavailable, whether they're married or we don't know them or whatever it is. And that's, you know, that's an indicator that, okay, maybe I'm not quite ready, or maybe there's something I need to work on before I start this relationship, or maybe I have to push myself to, you know, we say yes to people when we start dating that actually it's not going to work. We know it's not going to work, right? Somebody's married, it's not going to work. Chances of that relationship working are pretty much 0.005.
Right. Yes, pretty much.
Yeah.
They do not leave their wives. They may say they will.
Yeah.
They're not going
And we're
to.
doing that on the other side of the fence. They don't leave their wife.
Yes.
Or if they do, it's such a rare occurrence. And I don't know how it works the other way.
And then you're left with all the debris. So if he ever did, or she ever did, leave their spouse, you're left with the debris.
Exactly.
That's
And
not
my
pleasant.
cynical friends say, you know, if he did it to her, he'll do it to you eventually.
Yes.
Yeah. If nothing changes inside, then the same thing repeats.
So what I'm hearing you say is try not to date a married man.
For sure.
Not try not to
Let's
date.
start
Do
there.
not date a
No,
married
that's where
man.
you walk away.
Not try. Do
Do
not.
Yeah.
Yes.
You're
They
setting
must be
yourself up
divorced.
for
They must
disaster.
be divorced. And they're not
Divorced? What about
separated either.
separated?
No.
Oh,
Do not date
no.
a separated person. They haven't been apart long enough. They need to be divorced. It needs to be closed. They need to be finished with the last relationship.
Okay.
And if you're not divorced, that's a question of why aren't you divorced? And some of that we would talk about in our workshop as well, is what's holding you back. One of them might be that you haven't divorced yet. And there's a reason that you haven't, and you're not quite finished.
And you, the new date could be the rebound.
Yes. Yes.
The one before the next one.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just not sure. So
Yes.
if you don't want to get hurt, don't step in. But how do you know, what do you say?
I think often we actually know that. We know it's a no, and then we push ourselves, we kind of override that. Oh, well, maybe it's just this, or maybe it's that, and then we keep trying to kind of get this unobtainable thing, right? Which is more actually something that's happening inside of you, right? Is that you're trying to reach for something unattainable, and we don't just say no after the second date when we go, it's not going to work. I know it's not going to work. We push that envelope, right? So I think part of the trick for women to learn is that actually when we know it's a no and we know it's not going to work, walk away gracefully. Say thank you, it's nice meeting you, and I'm going to keep looking for somebody that is actually wants to be in a relationship and
But
is
as
ready.
you know, we've been raised to be nice girls.
I know.
I know, but that's over. It's so over.
Oh, we can be bad girls.
We can say no really strongly.
In a nice way, just say no,
This
here's
isn't
the
for
deal.
me. This
Yeah.
is what I wanted in my life, and this is not for me. The timing isn't right for me, or I'm not ready, which is true.
What if you're not attracted to someone who asks you out? Have you got a line for that? As you know, many women lie.
Right.
Make up a boyfriend in South Dakota or
Right.
something.
Right.
How do you not kindly, because I don't know if you have to be kind about it, but honesty
Right.
is so important in a relationship. You're swell, I'm just not attracted to you, that clear?
I'm not
Well,
interested.
Yeah, and I think, like, I'm flattered. Like, if someone asks me out, I might think about that. Like, oh, I got asked out today. That was nice. So you could say that, like, I'm really flattered that you asked me out. You know, I have a boyfriend, or I'm not available right now.
Right.
Or I'm just not, it's not the right timing, I'm not interested, but I'm really flattered and thank you.
Where does chemistry fit into the picture? There's many schools of thought, as you know. There's
It's a big subject.
what they used to call the butterfly stage, and you get the butterflies, and your brains go out the back door, pretty much.
Yeah.
What if there are no butterflies, but this man has everything you're supposed to want? You know, successful, athletic, nice family, good guy.
No,
I think-
I need the butterflies.
I think that's
you have to
nature's
have the
way of
attraction.
nature's way of protecting through the inevitable hard stuff that's going to come up in
Yeah.
a relationship. That you kind of need that picture of the possibility in the beginning,
Right.
For when it, because inevitably in a relationship you are going to do a crash where things get hard. I mean, that's part of a long term. It's a different show. Long term relationship is that things are gonna get hard. So you need to be able to have that hope to go back to that. Oh yeah, it was like this once.
But then you have man, however, sitting on the other side of you, and here's your list. And there's obviously a good time to bring that up and a good time to shut up. you know, do you want children? Do you have a sexually transmitted disease? Does he have a sexually transmitted disease? Has he had an AIDS test? Have you had an AIDS test? When do you discuss that? On what date? No.
Before
Or
you
you have
sleep
sex.
with them, for sure.
Okay.
Definitely.
Yes.
And I think early, you know, especially with children and things like that. I mean, that's pretty important. If there's absolutely, I don't want children, then there's no need to have a second date. Like literally, that's very early, because that's important. That's not going to change.
Right. However, you know what we do? We think, but once he falls madly in love
Yes.
with me.
Oh no,
Yes,
that's
that's
scary.
I don't mean those of us who are a bit more seasoned think
Right.
that anymore, but there was a day when you think, I can change him.
Yes. Yes.
would
Right?
be- that would
I
be a
know he
dating
says
no.
he doesn't want any more children, but I bet you.
Yeah.
That's when you don't go on the next date. When you want to buy into the package, but you only want part of it, and you think you're going to change them, you're actually wanting to date somebody different.
It's so much about knowing who you are, isn't it?
Yes.
And what you want.
Yes, I think that's really important.
It's the most important thing, actually.
What are
is to
some of
know
the
yourself.
mistakes singles make when you're in your seminars and the women? Because you just do women or men?
Men and women.
Men and
Our,
women.
our next one is men and women, for
Yeah,
men and
it's
women
mixed.
together.
Yeah.
Which will be
all
really
in
exciting.
the same room?
Yes. 'Cause
That's
you get
very
tips from
good.
the opposite sex,
Yeah.
right?
So when they say no men in this town,
Yeah.
and then
They're
all the
showing
men
up.
are there,
Yes.
that would be fun.
Yeah.
So mistakes singles make. Can you? I know
Well,
there's not a.
for sure, what we were
perfect
saying
list.
is they're following a list that is too narrow, and then it doesn't even match the guy, yet they're still going for it anyway. So they're following an imaginary list, like it doesn't exist. The guy isn't those things, but you're saying, well, he doesn't have 5 of the 10 things, but I'll settle for it anyway. So that's certainly, and you're fantasizing about that he will actually fit into those things,
Right.
which is probably never going to happen.
Yeah, do not fantasize.
Yeah, it doesn't.
That's how it works in the movies.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
That's the
right.
problem.
Yes.
Those darn movies.
I
The
know.
movies, yes. they
You know,
mess.
because something happens and a miracle takes place.
And all those things that you didn't want suddenly appear, and he's perfect anyway.
Right. The self-absorbed men who lead you on, they're totally about themselves. And this is not dissing men, but there are some men who are totally self-absorbed, don't really care if they have a relationship or not. And pretty much the whole thing is about them. And you know from day one, first date, when they say they'll call, they don't.
Yeah. But then somehow we keep calling them. That's a mistake we make, that we don't go, okay, he's not interested, or he's not interested in enough for me. I actually want somebody that's attentive and pays attention and wants to see me.
And cooks me dinner.
I know, but somehow we keep trying to keep getting them interested. That's a mistake we often make as women, as opposed to going, okay, I'll let it go. I'm going to meet the next guy.
And it's not necessarily even desperate women. I don't mean
No,
desperate's
not
the
at
wrong
all.
word.
No.
It's just what I present to you in the beginning, believe me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
And we tend to
Yeah.
monkey brain and think, well, I know he did that.
Right.
But he's so not that guy.
Right.
Yeah.
He is that guy.
Trust
Yeah.
me.
He's the guy.
Because they say,
He will
well, they
still do
say-
that.
Yeah, and they say often when you
Yeah.
break up, the very things you fell in love with are the things that you break up over. Who knows?
Very often.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Well, it's that
complicated.
thing about believing in yourself, right? You actually probably knew in the beginning that it wasn't going to work.
And I also believe in asking your girlfriends, like, get your help from your friends or guy friends, either one, if you're talking about men. Ask them. Ask them what they think. Have I changed in this relationship? Am I changing? And if that's happening, you're probably trying to mold into something that doesn't fit you. You're changing in order to date that person. And then that's a red flag. If you're changing, something's
That's only
going
going to
on.
last so long, that
And
relationship.
that's about knowing yourself.
Yeah.
If you know yourself, then you won't change. You have these
Exactly.
values and you'll stick to what they are.
And great relationships, I said to Dr. David McKenzie yesterday, great relationships are built on you're both autonomous. Two great people working at the top of the game come together and you appreciate each other's differences instead of trying to turn into one another.
Yes.
Doesn't that make sense?
Kills the passion.
You don't need somebody to be somebody else in order to be in a relationship together. If you need somebody to be somebody else to be in a relationship, then you're dating the wrong person.
Right. And men I know and love say, don't become my mother.
Right.
Like, that wasn't
Yeah.
the point.
Yeah. Yeah.
No man wants to be made wrong or have a mother telling them what to do. Care for me, just don't become my mother.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even though I love my mother.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
How nice to see you. So this
too.
is next,
Wednesday, the
Thanks,
20th.
Fanny.
yes, and
The 27th.
27th. Okay, and does it carry on?
We have other workshops. So
Other
this one
workshops
is a
coming up.
2-week workshop.
So this is just the Fab Love Life.
Fab Love Life
coming
is
up.
the name of the company, fablovelife.com.
Okay.
And the name of the workshop is Single in the City.
Gotcha.
So if you go to
Yes.
Fab Love Life, you'll see the other workshops as well.
The information about
Okay.
the workshop.
Excellent. How
For
nice to
men
see you.
and women.
Yes.
Well, you see, that's going to be fun.
Yes, it is going to be fun. We'll tell you
Yeah.
about it.
I might have to come. Lisa Delusignan and Laura Bradley, and they're both coaches and they're both registered counselors. Coming up, singer-songwriter Justin Azuka releases his talents and a new CD called Holly next.
No, I don't feel too good at all. Cause when the sun comes up and the children wait,